welcome to Creatively Speaking episode 9 with your host Lawrence Mayfield. Today we're just going to talk about a couple things. One is the writing process that I'm just going to try to outline it for myself so I kind of know, I can break it down for myself so I know like how I'm approaching it. Maybe I can adjust some things, improve some things, do some things differently. And then maybe talk about also how to like not get creatively fatigued. And I'm going to try and go into something else that I think I've always had like an affinity for. We'll talk about that later. So first we can talk about the writing process here. So Ray LaMontagne said once something along the lines of like, he was asked in an interview, I guess, about how he writes songs and like, said the words that come first or something. And I think he said something along the lines of like, the music, I put the music together first and then the lyrics kind of become apparent over time or something like that. Make themselves apparent or something. I can't remember the exact quote, okay, but there was an interview he had, and I related to that because that's how I've always approached writing is like composition first and then words. Like I know that I can articulate to some degree what I'm experiencing, what I'm trying to go through, if I just have a body of, chords and stuff. And, over time I've like picked up different things and I've, tried to be as observant as I could as a writer, as a musician, whatever, writer. But yeah, as somebody who's trying to make music, I've tried to be as observant as I can. And, I think Timothy McElrath, like from Rise Against or something, like punk band I used to listen to when I was a kid. I think I was listening to recording sessions of like Endgame or something, and he was talking about how like he made a bunch of gibberish when he was like doing the melody to the composition. So he would just like do a bunch of I don't know, they called it a certain slang term in their band, but it's still the point is like he would just hum it out basically, which is more or less like where I picked up that sort of trick. In the back of my mind, I was always like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I can sit here and I can hear these chords and I can hum it out. And there was a guy from Queens of Stone Age, Josh something Homme or something. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he would also talk about like uniqueness in guitar work and something about how like he had to find his sort of thing on the guitar and something he could call his own. And I kind of try to like keep that in my mind, in the back of my mind when I was putting stuff together as well. It's just like a lot of little things I've heard from interviews of musicians and artists, whatever, that kind of stuck with me, that let me kind of, I guess, approach things from a more, just a collective kind of angle or whatever, if you want to call it that. But like, I was just trying to, take the best things I've heard and then just make sure that I was aware of those things when I was trying to do my own thing. Which I think is more or less like, it's paid off. I mean, I can see the work that I put in. Like even if I haven't shared every song that I've ever written, I'm not ready to like necessarily record vocals. I think it's a little bit more technical than instrumental stuff. Because you got to get, things more tighter. There's aspects that you have to have good. Before you do that, timing is one of those things, like it's a foundation, and you cannot fudge that. Like, you have to have that right, or else you're wrong. And, I'm just trying to get comfortable with compositional instrumentals and recording of that, right? Before I go into the vocal stuff, because the vocals, again, like I want to understand enough so that when I go into that, I know I know how to put that together but it's a little bit of a different approach. Like I have to keep 4/4. I have to count to 4 for like 4 to 5 minutes, which is not as easy as it sounds. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to cheat it and everything, and I'm just trying to make everything as I want to approach things the way that I figured it out, because then it's more rewarding for me. Like I don't want somebody to explain to me how something that should go together necessarily. And I think that's important for everybody as a musician. Like if you have a vision or something, you should probably figure out how you want it to sound on your own relatively first. And then somebody else can tell you like how to easier do that, I guess, later when you're wanting to go bigger, I guess. I think if people got money to burn, they can like go to a studio and pay some guy in Nashville to like realize your vision, which I don't think is the way to do it. I think it's important to figure out how you want things to sound first as an independent, because it's totally impossible to do everything on your own for the most part these days, more so than ever. And authentically do that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's important. Authenticity, I think, is more important than ever now. Doing it your way and figuring out how you want things to come across. I think that I was hung up for a long time on like, maybe I need to get, this kind of guitar, or I need to get this software, I need to be on this platform. I've done away with that attitude, and I think it's been for the better, because, I mean, ultimately, like, the consumer of media and entertainment, I mean, how much can they really discern the difference of something independent? I guess they can, again, like, if you've worked on your stuff long enough, I think it becomes harder to tell. The more refined it becomes, the more, cleaned up and organized it becomes, versus something that's, like, done in a professional studio. I feel like, I don't know, again, like, my shit, you could probably tell it's not done in a professional studio, obviously, but, I mean, I think that I can blur the line at some point if I keep working on it, and then people can't really tell, it just sounds like really polished or something. I think you can get to that point on your own without having to pay thousands of dollars to somebody. You know what I'm saying? But I really don't think it matters, like, what instrument you're playing. If you're playing some kind of brand name of whatever, you're playing on some platform, you're using some kind of software. That doesn't, for the final product, as long as you work towards understanding how you want it to come across and get it clean, you'll know if you trust your ear enough, you'll know that you need to work on A, B, and C. And then once you've gotten that, I think that you'll be to a point where you agree with what you're sharing more, I guess, if that makes sense. Like over time, my focus has shifted from different things. So initially, like when you're maybe newer player to your instrument or something, you're focusing on maybe getting your chords right and your finger positions right and all these things. But I think that, like, I don't know. I mean, you could overanalyze every aspect of everything you're doing all the time, and that would just like paralyze you, I think, from doing anything meaningful. I think that, like, people emphasize different things when they're, I don't know, when they're making creative work, I guess. For me, it's more like, I don't know, my focus is definitely more on the melody side of things. Like, I really do want it to be like when I'm singing or I'm humming the song, if I have something that I think may be something like a composition, I'll sit down and I'll hum it for a little while. And then I won't fully commit until I'm like in agreement that I can like confidently sing the thing with some, level of like emotion. Because I think that's important, like you can, there's a way to say things that's more like drawing for an attention of people listening to it. Like I'm always like trying to push myself to like get the maximum range of whatever I'm not saying I'm like going to be screaming or anything. I'm just saying like I'm trying to get to the point where like my vocals are at least, they have an emotional quality that is like has enough weight to pull people in to like to feel that, you know? Like I don't know. There's just a part of me that thinks that like that's an important thing. I've always like been drawn to that. You know, maybe it's Timothy McIlrath. Maybe it's like all the alternative music I listened to when I was a kid. But I mean, there's just so many vocalists that like, you know, again, like I think that there's some like, like I don't know. Why am I bringing up John Prine all the time? he's like this renowned songwriter that everybody like looks to, and they're like saying like he's great. But was everything great about him? Like was everything about Lou Reed great? Like let's take Lou Reed instead, for example. Let's not take fucking John Prine and put him at the fucking stake here. He's a great writer. I'm just saying, like, you know, was I convinced by the vocals? I don't think so. Personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, he's not vocally convincing. He was very, like, kind of like, I don't know, nasally, you know? It just didn't, it's not convincing me. Like, if you had John Prine's voice with, like, Chris Cornell in John Prine's writing, maybe, I don't know. Even still, I don't know, John Prine had like a playfulness to him, I think. It was part of the personality of the music, was a little bit more like, you know, story crafting. So I don't know, like even still, like, you know, Chris Cornell had like way more serious topics, and it complemented his like intensity of his vocals, right? But if you take like Lou Reed or something, like he's a great story writer. Like he can make an interesting song, clever song, I think, sometimes. Not always. Okay. You know, but was his voice like convincing? Was Lou Reed's voice like something like to be like, holy crap, he sings so well? No. And I think we have to be honest about that. I think that like, you know, like musicians, like a lot of these artists, like they're not like just all around the most amazing thing. Like some of them, a lot of them have like weaknesses in different aspects. And I try to look at that in different people around me. I try to see the strength and weakness of them in like a local scene. I try to recognize like this person's really technical. He's really good at like lead, or he's really good at finger picking, really good at writing, really good vocalist. But then like, you know, like it seems like a lot of times when their strength is in one pocket, it's like it's very neglected in the others. Like you can't, like I can tell that like if there's somebody who's vocally like really strong, they're probably playing, you know, I'm not saying it's like you need to necessarily be like doing all of it, but I'm just saying like you can tell that they're not as like, their focus is in different things. And that's okay. Like I'm just saying like that's worth acknowledging. Like I'm trying to understand that for myself. Like my acknowledgement, my focus is more in the melody, in the vocal draw. But I still want, like, I still want to have, when I'm playing for myself, and if I want to share these songs, like, at any point to other people that I don't know, I want it to be, like, at least engaging for me. Because if I don't feel like I'm engaged in playing the song, then I don't think people are going to be, you know? So I'm always kind of holding, like, it's a lot of debating to get to the point where I'm, like, committed to the song a lot of times. Sometimes it's like, I don't really like that. I'm not, do I like that? Do I agree? It's constant, you know, deliberation of like, do I like this? Do I want to commit to this? I don't know if I like this key. Do I need to shift the key? Do I need to shift my like how I'm singing it? Like, can I go high, low here? What do I do? Like, you know, it's a lot of deliberation when I'm writing. I'm not just like trying to send it a lot of times. Like sometimes it comes together pretty quick, but you know, sometimes I have to really like, I have to struggle. And you know, like I tell that to people and they have this perception that I'm like, I'm really trying hard. And yeah, I am, because I want to make something that's decent, and I want people to like at least understand that, the value of that, you know, this is not just bullshit. I'm not saying that anybody else's stuff is, but I mean, I think that like how, like I go back to this point about, and this is going to come across some kind of way, but this is the thought I have, and this is like, you know, however this is going to be understood, it's whatever. I've said this to multiple people. I've had this point I think made, and you know, not as extensively as I'm going to try and like explain it right now, but you have to like write personal experiences and stuff like that, like you have in your life, like moments in your life that have changed you, or if you're a songwriter and like and again, like who am I? Like I'm just a guy. I have like 10 views and whatever. Who gives a shit? Fuck this guy. Whatever. But hear me out. If this is one thing that I say that makes any sense, like I think this point is well founded. Like I think that listening to tidbits like I catch from Chris Stapleton, where he like wrote 1,000 songs. Like Joe Rogan asked him, like, oh, he wrote 1,000 songs or whatever, thousands of songs. Can't count them. Okay, it's not important what the number is, because I think again, like you have to revisit concepts. You can't just like think that if you've written 5 songs, therefore you're like a prolific writer, and that your songs are like somehow. I mean, you could be a good voice. Like, don't get me wrong. There's some people that have like this soaring vocals that just like they're so, they're grand, like I've seen these people in the scene. Like there's this, I'm not going to say any names, but I've seen people that like all their emphasis is in one aspect, and it's like they have their vocals and it's just like, it's very grand, and that's drawing in. But there's such a neglect of other things. Like, there's no, I don't know, there's just not a refinement on other parts, like your writing or your whatever. Like, it's just not drawing me in, because I can appreciate the one aspect, but where's the rest of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got all salt, but no pepper. Like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's the right analogy, but I guess what I'm getting at is like, people are very convinced, I think, that like, if they've written 5 songs that like, and they've written this song about this personal thing that happened, that like that's it. It's done and dusted, done deal. That you can just like say that that's like the best articulation of that thought that you could ever muster up. And that's not true. Like I don't think that the first of anything is good. Usually it's crap. Like sometimes people get lucky, but the more you start understanding, like a lot of musicians and a lot of people that have like made it, they've been working on stuff for years before they actually like caught any like momentum. Not that I would get it. I'm just saying, like in general, like there's this, it's seemingly like as if this person has gotten blown up because of the one song. They were probably working on stuff like that. They were trying to convey that concept for like maybe a decade or so, and you can never get there. You will never be understood, and people won't actually like genuinely, I don't think, this is my theory, I'm not a mind reader, but like I don't think that people can genuinely like appreciate what you're trying to convey if it's not refined. Like, and refinement is like you have to do it over and over again. Like anything it is you're trying to do, like the first fucking 1 to 10 to 30 to 40, maybe fucking 600 is going to suck ass, okay? You just got to keep doing it until somebody understands. Like, you'll know when people are like, damn, this is actually something, When you can get, like, when you're not even, like, asking people's attention, you're just doing it, and then people are shutting up. I think there's an aspect, there's part of that that's true, that speaks the truth in that moment. Because it's without being said, right? And it just can't happen. Like if you have some very personal moment in your life, like a friend passes away, somebody passes away, something like dramatic happens in your life, don't expect the first 5 or 10 versions of that to even be like like it's just not. Like it's foolish to think that like that's going to be understood and that's going to be like taken some kind of way. Unless like, I don't know. Again, if you have one aspect that's really strong that somebody can appreciate, okay, that's one thing. But then like, what am I trying to say? I guess like, if the song was more realized, if the content that people were creating was more realized, I feel like it would be more understood and more appreciated if there was more like variations on the take, Like, and songwriting is so much more technical than like I work for like construction, right? So I do like framing a wall. I don't think framing a wall is that much more complicated. It's more complicated than songwriting. Songwriting is actually more complex when I think about it, because it's like it's one thing to like do a framed wall and know that it needs to be level. There's certain things that need to be true. Yes, certain things need to be true in a song too. Timing needs to be important. There's certain things that you expect in a structure, but you know, sometimes you don't expect it. Sometimes it's not expected, you know? Parts about songwriting. Sometimes this song doesn't have a fucking bridge, or maybe it doesn't have, you know, maybe it has like, I don't know, 2 verses and a chorus and that's it. And I don't know, like does it always have to follow like a certain formula? Not necessarily, but like there's certain things that have to be there structurally, right? I mean, I guess you can, I don't know, I guess you could draw an analogy that like maybe there's weird angles in a framed wall or something, and that would be like the same as like a song having weirder moments or like more unique novel moments. I don't know. I guess you could compare the two. I don't know. Like you could compare a lot of things to a lot of things. You can make a lot of analogies, but I think it's just so much more complicated, because if somebody looks at a wall and as long as it's like level and whatever, like it's good, you know? And I guess the same can be said for a song. It's like if somebody like writes a song and like all the parts are there, but the person's like singing is not really that convincing. If the wall is just like level and like whatever, everything, you know, the drywall and everything they put after is like fine. It's like it doesn't really like do anything unique. It doesn't have any weird angles. I guess it doesn't matter. Like it's just a wall anyways. But that's what I'm saying, I guess, is like I'm not convinced that like anything more interesting than the other wall, you know? If the song is not, I don't know, like it's a fucking framing wall analogy here. I don't know exactly what it is I'm trying to articulate here. I guess I'm just trying to say that like a song is so much more than just one dimension that people are like demonstrating a lot of times. I feel like they're just neglecting certain parts about it. And I mean, sometimes they'll have like, I don't know, flair and whatever, and there's like a little bit of like noodling and whatever. But I don't know. I've never been in a band. I've never been on a stage. I mean, I've been on a couple stages. That's not true, but I don't know. Is it all? It's like, I don't know. I think it just comes down to opportunities. Like, you know, I'm not, I know my stuff is like decent. It's not terrible. Like, it's like, if it was given a chance, I think it would actually like legitimately have, I think it would get people's attention to some degree. You know, it would at least grab the attention of the people that were like interested in maybe the style that I was doing or something. But it's a lot of like moments, like a lot of chance opportunity moments. Like it's not, when does it happen? I don't know. I'm not as aggressive about, you know, playing live and gigging and getting $150 or whatever. And I don't know. It's just like I don't know. I want to make good music, and I want to make stuff that I want to listen to, and that I hope people will be interested in. But I don't know. It feels like these days that like people are so again, like I feel like people are concerned with. It's like this one kid on the internet that was like, like I don't know. I caught this video when I happened to be like scrolling endlessly. There's this kid, he just like threw a flashbang grenade in front of himself and fucking blinded himself. Permanently blinded himself, I guess. And I was like, and that's where I coined the phrase flashbanging. Like it's just like it feels like the internet. You just have to flashbang people with your crap, and it's like I don't want to do that, you know. Like it's just it's not really necessarily about it's about a lot of marketing. I think it's like I think that there's whatever is being popularized on the front page. If you look up YouTube whenever you're not logged in, you have no. it's just the default homepage of YouTube without an algorithm. Like you'll see like a lot of the popularized music and stuff. And it's just a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of like fashion fucking Balenciaga or something like is slipping into like hip hop videos, and then that's like being promoted. Which I mean, I don't know, that makes sense. It's like excess. And it's promoted in those. I don't know. I'm not trying to take a shot at the hip hop or anything. I'm just saying like that's what that's what it is. I think there's a little bit of like there's marketing. There's like this clever marketing and slipping in Coca-Cola, I guess, as it were, in your movie or in your thing, because there's enough people looking at it, and that gets in the subconscious of the consumer. And I guess it's like a way to control, I don't know, conspiratorially, I kind of like go towards like, it's just a way to like make us consume more, I guess. I don't know. And music is just like a catalyst. Creativity and stuff is just a way to like, I don't know. I don't even know, man. I don't want to like try to analyze that too hard. We're trying to talk about writing here. Trying to talk about my writing process. Now it's changed over time. But yeah, I'll sit down and I'll just kind of like try to remember the best things that I've pulled from like genres and stuff. The strong aspects and the weaknesses I try to avoid. And my focus is on different things. It's focus on my melody. Like melody is a very big emphasis for me. Like I think that that's important. Like if my vocal humming in the eventual what becomes the lyrics and the words, if that makes any sense with the rhythm, and it feels clever and it feels like it makes sense and it like it's done in some kind of way that like I can flow with, then I'm like, okay, cool, let's go with that. But until then, I'm like, I'm not committed to the song until I'm like fully committed. You know what I'm saying? And that can sometimes take hours. I can take like, whatever amount of time. Maybe I'm just thinking about it too hard, maybe. People would say that. Yeah, you're just thinking about it too hard. You don't need to do anything for anybody except for yourself. But I mean, there's a part of me that wants to like, I want to make content that's like, that's not just enjoyed by me. I want it to be enjoyed by other people, for fuck's sake. I mean, like, that's not going to be achieved if you're just lost in your own world of what you think is like cool. You know what I'm saying? Like you can think what you're doing is so amazing, and then like when you show it and present it, you have that creative tunnel vision like I was talking about last episode, and it's like people are just like, what the hell are you, what is this? I don't know, what? Like you have to, like for me, it's not, I have a different framing of that. Like I'm not just trying to make like silly little fucking songs. Like I'm really trying to try, you know what I'm saying? Even if it doesn't look like it, and I'm not doing it in the way that the current sort of zeitgeist is like sort of wanting me to go forward with it. It wants me to like go on TikTok and flashbang everybody, with this shit and like play it over and over and over again like a million times before I actually fucking release the song. Like I know how people do it. I know they'll like play the same song like a million fucking times until like they're like, all right, finally it's dropped. I'm like, all right. So when are you gonna release the next one? Oh, next year. Okay, cool. I mean, there was those like one-hit wonder people back in the day, in the 80s and all that stuff, or not even the 80s, just in general. There was always one-hit wonder artists throughout decades that would like have a song that like showed up and then like it's still like, I guess, present in people's minds. They're like, oh shit, I know that song. That's a good one. And it must like, I don't know, that must feel really like, I don't know what that feels like. That must suck in a way because you've done all this other music and then it's like you're only appreciated for this one thing you did. And I guess that, that's something. But I don't know, I'm just so focused on just recording instrumentals, making sure I understand how I want things to sound. Getting it as clean and organized as I can make it. Make it make sense. It's the biggest thing. It has to make sense. Whatever that means. But I don't know, like I feel like covers are important for writers and like musicians and whatever. I mean, what does they say? Imitation is the finest form of flattery. Some people like play things to the T, right? They want to play it as accurately as they can to re-experience that thing, right? Some people like tribute bands, right? Some people are just trying to be a tribute to their favorite artist. There's nothing wrong with that. There is a bit of a camp sort of thing, right? In creative worlds where it's like, are you the imitator or are you the creator, you know? And I know everything's based on everything, okay? Whatever. You can make that argument for days, but I'm just like going to stay on the point of like, you're doing your experience and you're conveying it through your work. That's the line of authenticity versus like trying to do somebody else's stuff constantly, right? I think the value in doing covers is that you can look in, if you're a visual learner and you're like, okay, I've done this song now, and I can understand how they put that together. I can understand their writing, their composition, angles, how their melody is weaved and everything. I was trying to be observant. That's like the biggest thing you can do as a writer, I think, is be observant. You're just going to try to be as observant as you can. Pick up, tidbits, like I was saying, like Ray LaMontagne saying that. That was what I always did. I always wanted to do composition first. But it like further reinforced that thought because there's other musicians that do that, like they're more successful, right? Lyrics becoming apparent. But just picking up things like that, watching people play, whatever little things you need to pick up to make yourself more well-rounded. Don't neglect everything in lieu of one thing, That's I guess what I'm arguing for. Yeah, the covers thing. I mean, if you're doing covers, it's important to do that as a musician to like understand how other people put songs together. But there comes a point where you have to start to like take all. You have to be, and I think it's important to be like very like diverse on that. Like you got to take from every source. It can't just be like. I mean, you can if you're just trying to do one thing, right? But I don't think that people truly find what they like really want to do stylistically if they're just doing the one thing. Because then they're just doing what, the people around them are wanting them to do in a way, Does that make any sense? Like, if all you do is country stuff and you haven't tried the other stuff, then you will never know if you actually maybe genuinely like other genres and styles. If you just do that all the time. And everybody's like, yeah, you can do that really well. But like, if you branch off and then learn, because you learn a lot of different things, right? Like you learn other styles will do different types of chords and stuff, and then it'll give you like that much more vocabulary. Like I think it's again, I'm just advocating for more well-rounded, just taking everything that you can, becoming better from that. Because I think it's limiting to try to go down one avenue. But again, maybe people want to be more focused, and that's fine. I don't know. I guess there's arguments to be made for both. But the covers, I think that they can lock you in and like not allow you to grow. I think they can. I don't know. I've never been good at playing covers, like especially like accurately. I could never read sheet music. I could read tabs, but I can't read sheet music because I could never do that. I guess I've always been like able to, sort of like do it in my own way and then like try to figure out like an understanding of like what I actually got from that song. Was it finger picking? Was it some new chords, some new like trick for vocals or something like that, That was more important takeaway than knowing that I can do the song. Like I'm not so preoccupied with being like accurate to the song's original composition, Some people are, and some people like that. People want to hear the song the way it was. But I mean, ultimately, like when I sit down, it's me, like, I sit down with the guitar and then, and I take all those things from the different artists, interviews and covers and everything that I've tried to sort of do on my own and try to like, I'm not really, obviously I'm not thinking about everything all at once. There's a chaotic thing that happens in the brain when you're doing anything, right? But I'm not saying I'm thinking about all those things at once. I'm just thinking like, I want to sit down and I want to like write a song, right? Initially. And then I'm like, okay, let's just sit down with the guitar. Maybe I'm just going to sit down with the guitar in general. You know, how does it happen for anybody? But it's something I find that I like. You know, it's got a vibe to it or something. It's got some sort of nice sound to it compositionally. I can define it as a verse or a chorus. And I'm not sure yet sometimes. A lot of times I'm not. Sometimes I'm like, okay, what is that, the verse? Is that the chorus? Do we have two distinct parts? Do we have enough to make like a full-fledged song? Do we want to put a bridge in there later on is what a conversation becomes? Or the monologue, whatever. The discussion in my head. I'm like, do I want that to be verses and chorus and cheetah bridge? Or do I want to have like a full-fledged bridge? What do I want to do here? And a lot of times it's just like, do I want to get committed to the sound of this verse and those chords? And I'll just be like strumming it and humming it, picking it, humming it, whatever. And does it become an instrumental? Does it become an actual song with words to it? With words, it's like another layer because I have to hum it out. I have to like actually agree with the melody, with the rhythm. That's a different layer. That's a little more technical and it's more harder and it's more demanding. So I don't really enjoy those as much because it's so much more time commitment, I feel like at times, to sit down and do like a writing session. It's much easier for me to just chill and do like a little, I don't know, whatever, progression. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Loop that. And then we can take something and put a bunch of other instruments in there. I can get my piano going on something and then maybe like a little percussion MIDI thing and then maybe a sample or something from some quote, some movie I like, that's very inspirational to me. Or whatever, maybe not, maybe just a picture, I draw inspiration from different things. A lot of times it's a visual thing. I can look at the fucking clouds and I can be like, all right, we're making an instrumental about that. I don't think you need to always say something. I feel like the more people say, the less they mean, a lot of times. I don't know why people are so preoccupied with things being said, because ultimately it's all the same grievances anyways, just said differently to different levels of quality. Sometimes I really do. I believe in like the, making a nice, pleasant instrumental and just, that's it. But, writing it is a more technical affair when I consider that like I have to sit down and I have to like hum it out and then I have to think about how the words are going to flow together and like ultimately what's being said. Like, it's not like I'm saying anything profound, like I'm not, like I have a style of writing that's a little more rhymier than other things, because I think that helps with the flow of it, especially when my stuff is more rhythmically focused. I'm not really a storyteller. I've tried those songs before, but I think mostly I'm like a rhythm person. So like I know rhythm guitar is like my main thing that I hesitate to be like, saying it like this, but I have more of a knack for the rhythm aspect of guitar. And I don't think about that stuff. I just kind of like whatever strum works. It just works, If it flows right and then like my vocals can go over the top of that and like dynamically like follow it and the words make sense enough to where they're saying something that makes sense, and it doesn't sound completely corny, then we're good. But again, I think that you got to do like that, multiple times, multiple evolutions of that for people to really understand truthfully like what you're doing, to understand the emotional weight of that. I think people like, I would like to see, like I said in the last episode, I think like there's lack of motivation in, I don't know, like on platforms and stuff. And I'm not seeing like, I'm not asking for and calling for competitiveness in the local scenes, but I would like to see people improve, and I want to see like, I don't know, like for me, I'm not as motivated. A lot of times I feel like to bring my material and try to like make new material when nobody else is doing that. It feels like at times, you know, like I'm not feeling that motivation because nobody else is like I thought in a way, and I never wanted to like I didn't want to impress people. It was like really just what I wanted to do with my music was like I wanted to be like bringing this new ideas to demonstrate and be like, okay, you know, everybody's like, damn, this guy's like writing all the time. I gotta write, and then they're gonna come back and they're gonna like next time show some new stuff, and it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna motivate. It's a continuous cycle of everybody like motivating each other to like create, you know. But I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing like there's like a stagnation or something. There's like some sort of, I don't know. It's not happening. So, and I'm not saying like, you know, I wanted to take credit for that, pushing people to start creating more. I you know, there was in the back of my mind, I actually kind of like the idea of that. I like the idea because I was looking for that. I always wanted to like improve. And maybe I have a competitiveness to me. I mean, that's just whatever. That's a personality thing, you know? Some people are just like, you know, having fun with it, whatever. I'm just like, no, I want this to mean something to other people aside from myself, okay? And I don't care how that comes across. Maybe it's like you want to psychoanalyze me. Maybe it's I always got parents issues or something. I don't give a shit. I want to make good content, okay? I don't care what you're framing it as. I just want people to like understand the emotion that I'm conveying. That's it. And I want it to make sense. I'm not convinced a lot of times from a lot of people around me because like I'm not seeing like I don't know, I'm not feeling it. Like I need to see more. And I'm not a fucking Simon Cowell. I'm just saying like I can't feel motivated to continue going to like a scene if there's not enough like motivation that I'm seeing in it, you know? But I don't know. There's some people that are trying. I mean, I'm just saying like I don't know. Everybody's, you know, going through whatever they're going through, but it's just I guess I'm just trying to like consider another avenue to take breaks from music. Sometimes I'll go through like an intensity of like making music for 2 weeks and then I'll just take a break for 2 weeks because I'm like burnt out. I don't want to touch a guitar. I don't want to look at a guitar. I don't want to listen to music. But I've been thinking about going into like, I've always actually had a gravitation towards photography, and I think that maybe I'll start doing more of that because I think a lot of times, more oftentimes than not, my music will be inspired by a visual photo that I have, you know? And I'm just pulling from that moment, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want a song based around. It's like 60% that and 40% music. So sometimes 40% of the time it's the song will, you know, bring on a visual picture that needs to complement it. But mostly it's the other way around. But you know, other times, like with the vocal stuff, it's like that's a completely different, you know, sort of moment of creativity. It's like it's not like there's no pictures involved in that really. It's just me and the words, and I have to try to figure out what I'm trying to say in a way that makes sense. But I think photography is actually really like something I've enjoyed when I was on my hiking and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about maybe, and just in general, when I was a kid, I used to take a lot of photos of a lot of random stuff. And I'm thinking about like leaning into that and taking breaks from music and just doing that in between to find inspiration. Because I'm feeling very demotivated in the scene when there's a lot of like, I don't know, I just don't like the conversations of like, I feel like people should be, I don't know, I should be more honest. Tell people like what their strengths and weaknesses and just be upfront about it because nobody's going to get better. I'm not going to see a change in the scene and people around me if they're not told what's going on, you know? Like I want to see this in people, you know? And if they could tell me that too, then I would love, you know, I could think about it when I'm writing in the future. But instead of that, I'm just gonna go do other things. I think I'm gonna find other different creative avenues. I think photography is a good one. And I don't know, maybe I'll just take pictures of whatever, you know, nature and urban settings. I don't care, you know, whatever's catching my eye, you know. So, yeah, that's kind of what's going on. But anyways, that's your this episode of Creatively Speaking, and I appreciate you guys for jumping in and listening to my thoughts on the creative process of writing. And I'll catch you next time.